again, I have to say, just phenomenal performances. And I know you're
Thank
under
you.
all the prosthetics, the tattoos.
Well, I didn't have prosthetics. I mean, well, I did have some prosthetics.
I think you had a talking prosthetic.
I had a talking prosthetic, correct.
Welcome to the actor's side. Today, I got one of the best actors around. He is in, well, you certainly know him from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. I counted it up. I think you've done 9 different things there. Pretty amazing. And then, of course, so many other things. Currently, a movie I got to talk to you about called Fresh on Hulu as well. And on Hulu, Pam&Tommy, which we're going to talk about here as well. Welcome, Sebastian Stan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, congratulations on all this stuff. Man, you pick interesting projects.
Yes, interesting's the right.
I have to say, well, let's start with Pam and Tommy here because that is front of mind here. And both you and Lily James are just extraordinary in it.
Thank you.
I mean, man, you really, when you commit here fully, and she too.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it required. Full commitment, full steam ahead, full biology of belief, if you will, that we could do it. I know both of us were very nervous and were in touch for those first 2 months of prep because you never really have that much time now to sort of prepare for a role. But I'd gotten a call in October of 2020 about the Pam&Tommy from Craig Gillespie.
Yeah, he's a great director.
Yeah, and so I said, okay, it's April, but then I had to go and shoot that Fresh first.
Yeah.
In that block of time. So I was kind of shooting that and then starting to go to take drum lessons on the weekends.
You had never played in a rock band, I assume.
No. I'm a pretty confident karaoke singer. You know, I think I'm okay to be at karaoke with. But other than that, it's not. Yeah, I've never played an instrument, even though my mom's a pianist. I'm ashamed to say. And then, so I started out with that, and then as we were getting closer, running a lot, trying to lose weight and all that, I would sort of text Lily and go, "Are you having nightmares about this?" Because I am. And she was like, "This is every week. I think this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't have done this." And so, it really wasn't until we had the camera test on, I believe, April 20th, to be honest, that we had the amazing hair and makeup team and costume designer. Everybody showed up and we had everything on. And at that point, we felt a little bit better.
Oh my God. Hair, makeup, costumes, special visual effects, all of that.
They all deserve everything.
They all deserve everything for this. It's actually extraordinary work. And then on top of that, your 2 performances, like I said, you are all in on this, on Tommy Lee, and she's all in on Pam Anderson. And it's a fascinating kind of story because it really gets deep into this whole thing of this stolen tape and the complications of being a celebrity like that and people that come in and ruin their lives, essentially.
I think being in the public eye, no matter how famous you are, and certainly they were at their peak at that point. I mean, certainly Pamela, Baywatch was probably one of the most watched, one of the most popular shows on television in the 90s, as you remember. But I guess sort of being in the public eye kind of almost comes with the job, the assumption that there will inevitably be an invasion of privacy, right?
Right.
But now I think the show also makes the comment on how timely it is in the sense that everybody's sort of susceptible to the invasion of privacy now. It's not just celebrities. It's social media has sort of opened the door for younger people as well to sort of be exposed in different ways. But I think tying the sort of birth of the internet, which seemed to be at a crossroads with us in the 90s, the media playing a part of it, us as an audience, consumerism kind of establishing or or just forgetting about boundaries and perimeters altogether.
Right.
And kind of how those two massive kind of the internet being one of them, and then sort of this invasion of privacy clashing and over this tape, over this sort of event.
Yeah,
that
but
happened.
It can be anything. You as an actor now, in this day and age, with social media and everything, is way different than it was decades before.
Well, you've also had, you remember the massive sort of implications that came from how many, I think it was Jennifer Lawrence, her phone was hacked, or it was the emails were hacked, or I can't remember, but, and all these pictures came out. I mean, so it's, sadly, we've only gone worse, right? We haven't really quite learned anything from that.
Right.
And I think that's one of the intentions of the show, for me, to me at least, is for us to sort of look back at kind of the fact that we were dealing with these things in the 90s, and we seemingly have only further desensitized ourselves, and the behavior hasn't changed on many people's parts.
When you do a role like this, or Jeff Gillooly in I, Tonya, do you make it a point as an actor to go and try to meet? These are people very much alive now that you're playing.
Well, I think you have a responsibility to some extent, to sort of at least introduce yourself, because it is someone else's life. And again, I think both of the people you're talking about, right, were in the public eye, whether willingly or not.
Right.
Certainly, I'm not sure how much Jeff had thought about.
Well, he sort of brought that on himself.
Right. So, but at the same time, I think as an actor, I find myself sort of to be a bit of a detective, right? Because you're kind of investigating in a way, sort of like maybe a journalist or something, where you're kind of, you've got this puzzle in front of you, and you're just trying to understand, and there's no other way of doing it other than researching it. And I think if sometimes another the person you may be playing is open to, now not everybody, I feel like it's an individual thing, right? If they're open to that perhaps you can still get something there that might help you in a way. And if not, then it's just simply to, out of human to human, the decency and awareness that we all have that you might say, hey, you might think this is weird, but I'm that guy that's about to throw in a portrayal of you, and I'm sure you'll have thoughts and feelings, but at least you should know who I am.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And as an actor, do you also have to have some way in, like Jeff, or obviously Tommy Lee's a little different, but some level of empathy or something to play somebody like that, to get a certain understanding of where they are as a human being?
You have to stay curious, and you have to serve the script. And so for me, a process that I have is I just keep rereading the script over and over again, because the first time you read it, you're going to have feelings and thoughts, and those are my feelings and thoughts as a human being, and then every time you read it more and more, you sort of start to kind of distance yourself a little bit from it, as a way to kind of understand it more objectively.
Right.
Because again, that's the job of an actor, is to honor the script and to go back in there and find a way into the thing. But it's such a collaborative process, because it requires conversations with the director. You have to really understand what the writers were after. Then you've got your own point of view, perhaps, of what you're learning. And at the end of the day, you're never going to be that person, right. and you can't even attempt to try to be that person. But you can give it your best shot to sort of pick up on what's there and what the writer and the director are after, I guess.
I have to tell you, one of my favorite scenes was where the two of you are on the bed watching TV, and she says, "I can't watch myself on Baywatch.
Yeah.
I can't." So keep changing the channels, and then the King and I, of all things, comes on, the getting to know you, and it's going. I don't know if that ever happened, but I love that scene. I love
I
and I thought it was so perfect and sweet. Actually.
I do too. Yeah, I don't know if that ever happened either, but it was a great scene. The writers were so smart with it, I thought, because again, we're watching something that's actually happening that's very innocent and almost childlike, and which reflects perhaps a bit of what that connection was, having started out so intensely as it did, with two people who seemingly just sort of crashed into each other and then didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
And
that was proven on the plane when you're talking about.
Yeah, well, and I believe it's in that Rolling Stones article. I think certainly Tommy has talked about that, the fact that it's sort of they spent all this time together and then they got married, and suddenly it was like, wait a minute, we should get to know each other. But the fact that it was a song, Getting to Know You, that was the title of the song. The fact that we get to see them in this sort of private moment before sort of the world has caught on to those two being together is sort of like this special little private moment they have before mayhem ensues.
So again, I have to say, just phenomenal performances, and I know you're under all the prosthetics, the tattoos.
Well, I didn't have prosthetics. I mean, well, I did have some prosthetics.
I think you had a talking prosthetic.
I had a talking prosthetic, correct. But it's true. I don't have any tattoos on my body, and I think that was kind of my worry. One of the things that I was worried about was sort of how I felt like my experience was so far removed from what seemingly Tommy's experience was in the world, being able to be so huge, so young, in a massive band, and kind of the 80s and the 90s in America, and kind of what that was. And but again, I think sometimes as an actor, it really helps when certainly look-wise, the exterior, if you will, is so different from you. I'm a big, like, costumes are huge for me.
Yeah.
Trying to look different, if you have to kind of change your body a little bit, if any of those things sort of help, I feel like, get you out of your own head and look at and forget that you're looking at yourself, essentially. Yeah.
That was, that's what I mean by special visual effects with the talking prosthetic there, which is very amusing. And I guess it came out of Tommy Lee's book himself. That wasn't the Rolling Stone. It was Tommy Lee writing about
No,
that.
he has a section in the book where he talks to his penis, and his penis is a character. And I think the writers just wanted to tip their hats to that. But sort of when we were looking at it, and there was a lot of question. I remember talking with Craig and going like, we're going to shoot this thing, but we don't know if it's going to work.
Right.
We have no idea. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's not. But let's just go with it and find the truth of it. What is it at the bottom? Once we take away everything that's going on, and at the bottom of it all, it's a simple confession in a way of admittance. As if you would tell your best friend, I think I'm in love with this woman, and I can't believe it. So
that also was kind of sweet in that way. He's falling in love, and he's having this conversation.
There's a lot happening for him in that moment, but yes, at the bottom of it all, it's sort of that's the kind of realization that he's having, and again, the writers conceived that in a very brilliantly creative way, because it has some humor to it, and there's also the sweetness, but I think it was about kind of just getting to the truth.
It's great. I wanted to ask you about Fresh, because when I saw Fresh at...
I'm so glad you watched that.
Oh my God, yeah, I saw that at a film festival at Sundance.
Great.
And I watched it, I go, oh my Lord, this is an amazing thing. It's an amazing movie, and it's from women. Directed by a woman, written by, and and you have this guy here who's just like, I don't know, you describe him, but he's
well, he's I'm like, do I call him a psychopath? I mean,
Yeah.
He's a cannibal. I mean, right?
He's a little bit Hannibal Lecter, I have to say.
He is, and he's a little bit Ted Bundy, and he really was ultimately born by the end of a lot of research I did on serial killers, and just talking back and forth with Mimi, the director, and Lauren Kahn, our writer, and Mary Parent, who produced it, another incredible woman who championed this project when nobody really wanted it.
Yeah.
But he's someone that has done such a good job. He's also a con man. He's done such a good job sort of living life and having constructed it for himself that he functions in this way, and he's been very successful at it.
Yeah.
And obviously we're focusing on this particular taste that he has, but it's not very unlike some of the documentaries that when we're thinking about some of the people that get away with things now. I mean, have you seen that Tinder swindler?
Yes, I did see that whole thing. That's unbelievable.
It's crazy, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about in today's world with the cell phones, with how everything is seemingly you can't hide from anything. This guy is so successul at what he's doing.
There. He's still doing it.
And that's another crazy part. And, I mean, it's just insane. So we were able to believe that enough for us, like, to extend our belief that you could have someone potentially get away with a lot now still.
Yeah, but ultimately, you know, it's the woman here who's the victim. You know, I mean, this guy cuts up women's parts. This is his thing. It's something, but you know, there is that triumph.
Yes, it's she has to sort of find a way to psychologically outmaneuver him, and it was a very, again, it was a movie that we all sort of looked at each other going, I hope we hit the mark, because it is bizarre how it starts in this sort of romantic comedy kind of way to establish this genuine connection, and then it's sort of seemingly that actual connection that leads to her liberation, that she learns that she can sort of lean into a little bit more. That's his weak spot. So.
And
unconventional.
Hulu certainly had fun with that one. I think they sent me rubber steaks and.
No, they did not.
Yeah. Oh
my God!
I mean, you know, wrapped in butcher paper.
Oh
here.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Before we go, I have to ask you about, of course, Bucky and the Winter Soldier. You've had great success with that. You've been in as many Marvel movies as anybody on the planet right now, and
Thank you.
Part of them.
Well, it's what you said. It's been part of my life for 10 years, and I feel like I've grown up with that character, and I've been lucky to kind of come back to it over and over again in the same way that, as Kevin Feige always says, they're lucky that people keep wanting to see the movies, and that as long as people turn up and they want to keep seeing the films and they want to keep visiting characters like that, then we'll be able to do more, and so it's been. Are we going to
be seeing more of the Winter Soldier here?
It's over and it's never over. I mean, it sort of depends on how you look at it. But there's still certainly plenty of things that I feel could be explored. I mean, we've just gotten him to a place where he can really kind of evolve now, I guess, in a way. So it just depends on which direction he takes, and they're far smarter, more creative people than me deciding that. So,
but it sounds like you're open to the idea of doing more.
Oh, well, like I said, it's I mean, I think if you're having fun and you know this, you've been in this business for a long time. It's always about the people that you get along with and that you can work with again and again. So I'm never opposed to that.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Actor Side, Sebastian Stan. Thanks, man.
Thank you.